Let's talk about projects. As we talked in an earlier video, everybody, when they register and confirm, is set up with a default project. You will always have a default project. And so let's talk about creating a project and what that involves. If I go here to this button that says add a new project, I'm given this form field. And we can do a number of things here, and we're going to walk through each one of them. First is project ID. And the project ID is going to be a string of text that we can define to identify the project. So I'm going to call this Fortune 500. So take note, the only punctuation allowed is underscore. And so that's why I put that underscore in there, Fortune 500. Now I can give this any name that I want. So I'll call this Fortune 500 also. But I can also do something else, like call it, I don't know, Fortune 500 2016. Call this Fortune 500 2016 here. Some unique way for us to identify this. I can put a description in here. So uh, this is a test of the home pages of the Fortune 500 companies from the 2016 list. The description doesn't do anything fancy except for when you look at it, it'll give you some sort of background on what this was about. You can put anything in there you want, and it's useful only to you. Now there's a field here that says add or remove URLs for testing. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this list. This list is the Fortune 500 websites. And then I'm going to go in here. I'm going to paste them in here. And so they're pasted in there. Those are all the URLs. Now they don't have to be each on one line. You could dump them in there. Tenon will parse those URLs out of that string. Next, of course, is test now. Do you want to test these URLs now? By default, it says yes. You don't have to have URLs, and you don't have to test them now. As a matter of fact, you can set this project up as a stub that you'll use later with some sort of application of some kind, say your instance of Access Monitor or whatever. But because I've put URLs in here, obviously I want to test them now. So that's what I'm going to do. Do I want to monitor these URLs? And monitoring is an interesting feature of Tenon. What Tenon does is it will periodically check each of the URLs. It will determine if the content at those URLs has changed. And if it has, then it will retest it. Now, it'll do that very frequently. So if you are on a free plan or you are on one of the lower end plans like the individual plan, you could easily run out of API calls if you do this. So I'm going to recommend that you turn that off by default, just so that you don't run out of your calls. Project level API settings. These should be relatively familiar to you from earlier videos. These are our API settings. And now, as you'll notice, these API settings are the same as those that I set up when I edited my settings before. I can override those. They're not locked down. I could choose only 100% for this now, and I could choose a lower priority or whatever. Just know that can be changed. But these have the same explanation as before. So if you're not familiar with these, I'd recommend reviewing that other video again. All of my options the same. And then finally, do I want to set this as my default project? Now, if I say yes, then the currently default project will still exist, but it won't be the default project anymore. So I'm going to leave this to no. So when I submit this, you will see here I'm taken back to the project screen. And I have apparently 499 URLs in the queue waiting to be tested. And they're going to be tested by the queue as they come up. And once they're there, I can click on the link here that says Fortune 500 2016, and I'll be taken to the dashboard. And this is the dashboard for the Fortune 500 2016 project pre-selected. So I can also go here and select my default project if I so choose. If I ever need to go back and edit the settings, then the settings will be available at the same URL, the project settings screen, and I can modify those settings. Now, one thing to keep in mind is if you modify these settings after some of these URLs have been tested, that will not change the results from that. In other words, modifying our API settings only have any effect after the testing has been performed.